Right guys, so this is the tutorial for the back pose with the hands off hips. So this is going to be applicable for tube rows and PCA and Physique. So we're going to start off with what we're doing at our feet. So it's actually quite simple. All we need to do is face the back, have our feet sort of shoulder width apart and sort of point the toes slightly outwards, and then that's the foot position. So that's absolutely fine there. So how I would approach getting into the pose is initially find a way to get onto your lats. So sort of roll back, and then contract your lats, and then spread your lats open like that. And that's absolutely fine there. So you can see Ryan's opened up really nicely here. So one thing a lot of people will do is they'll place the elbows too far back, so they won't open up enough. The elbows will be like here, so do it even more. And what will happen is they'll sort of retract the scapula to an extent, and they won't fully open up the lats. And this is what we want to avoid, and it's actually one of the most common mistakes I see from people on stage. Another thing people will do is they'll do the absolute opposite, where they'll roll too far forward like this. So if you do that, so really far forward. So when they do that, you actually end up losing the tension on the lats, and you lose a little bit of that lower lat thickness there. So we just need to make sure, I would say, our elbows are level with the plane of our body, and that'll be absolutely fine. Wicked. Cool. Another thing we need to make sure we're doing is leaning back a little bit. So what we do is we stick our chest out and then engage our lower lats like this. So what you do by doing that is you create more detail in the lower back, you make the waist look smaller, and you display a little bit more width to the lats. However, what we need to make sure we're not doing, so yeah, if we do that, so if we relax that, lean forward, so you can see Ryan isn't leaning back at all, he's just completely upright, not engaging the lower back, and you can see it just takes away from the detail in the pose here. If you do the absolute opposite, so just like really lean back there, you can see, you can barely like see what's happening with the lower back. Yeah, it will show more detail, but what will happen is on stage, the light is going to hit Ryan's head. It's going to create a shadow to his back, and it's just going to sort of take away from all the details in the pose. So what we want is a bit of a compromise between those two. So we just want sort of a little bit of lean back here, and that'll be absolutely fine. Another thing we need to look at, this is one of the most important things, is how high we are placing the elbows in the pose. So some people will put them far too high. So if you just reset and hit the pose again, and place them really high, like there. So you can see the height, once you get it above a certain position, you can't continue to keep tension on the lats. And it's going to obviously just massively throw off the pose, and a lot of the thickness in the lower lats is going to be taken away. So if we reset and then have our elbows really low, like that, yep. So you can see here, when your elbows are too low, almost like a bodybuilding back relaxed pose, what will happen is, yeah, you'll display a good amount of sort of pop and lower lat thickness, but you can't fully open up and display the width and the V-taper to the lats. So I would sort of avoid having the elbows this low. So what I would do is a bit of a compromise between the two. So if you do that again, Ryan, and have it a nice height. So typically I would say, yeah, not shoulder height, but just a little bit lower than shoulder height should be absolutely fine. It's very dependent on the person. So what I would do is bring it a little bit lower than shoulder height, and then just play around with bringing it lower than higher, and then see what gives you the best combination of the V-taper, the lower lat thickness, and sort of the erector thickness as well. So another thing we need to make sure we're doing is we're keeping a neutral spine from top to bottom. So that includes what we're doing with our neck. What a lot of people will do is they'll end up tucking the chin like this, so they'll end up doing that. So what happens when you do that is it just sort of creates a curved spine here, and it kind of takes away from some of the detail in the pose. So we just need to make sure our head is completely straight, and that'll be absolutely spot on. So another thing we can play around with, and once again this is going to be very person dependent, is what we're doing with the flexion of the elbow, and by that I mean downwards. So for some people, they actually create a little bit more pop in the lats by keeping the elbows exactly where they are and then rotating these downwards. So that actually looks pretty nice for Ryan. I would maybe have it a little bit higher. Yeah, nice. So for yourself, I would say just play around with keeping your elbow where it is and just rotating it up and down. See what gets sort of the best connection with your lats and creates that best pop and sweep to the lats. Right guys, so that is the tutorial for the back pose with the hands off hip, and stay tuned for the next one.